Hi everyone, it's me, Tim. Today I want to talk about what changes I would make to Fallout if I were to tinker with it today. And I want to make this clear. I wouldn't make big changes. I'm not talking about let's remake Fallout as 3D real-time action game. No. I'm talking about if not a remaster, but just if I was going to go back and go, God, if I had just had a little more time, it wouldn't have shipped like this. So what would I have gone through and done? I have a lot of notes on this, by the way. I have notes I took as soon as probably a few weeks after Fallout shipped. A lot of notes. I sat down about 10 or 15 years ago and wrote up a bunch of notes. I've also noticed people have asked for things online for years. And I'm like, oh yeah, that we should have done that. So I've compiled this and I put it in sections for ease of listening. So let's start with the user interface. There are a lot of things we could have done better with the user interface. Some of these are like we've learned over time what user interface types. In fact, UI is now called UX because the whole thing's an experience. It's not just what you interact with, it's things you see and hear. So I want to talk about what I would do to just not wildly change the user interface, but just make it a lot more user-friendly. So on the main user interface, the big things I'd probably change would be when you have an item in the active slot, that it makes sense what it does. The biggest example of that is if you have explosives in there, you should just be able to click on it and the explosive drops and the timer starts. So you can drop dynamite, you could, drop any kind of explosive you want. If it's a grenade, you throw it. That also would be things like rope. If you put the rope in there, then when you click on the rope, you get a cursor and you click on what you want to do. None of this right click, use from inventory. Maybe that could still be there, but I'd want to change that. Now, speaking of inventory, there's a bunch of changes I would make to the inventory screen. First of all, a take all button. I can't believe we didn't put a take all button in. The second thing I would do almost instantaneously is add many more digits to the move UI. That sub UI, when you pick up a stack of something, says how much of these do you want to move. Right now it's capped at 3 digits. I don't think we thought 999 was going to be enough. No, especially with caps. You want to be able to move a 5-digit minimum. I'd probably make it 6 or 7 or just widen that thing out. It's not a problem to add more digits. It's just we should have done that. I'd also let you use the page up and down keys to go up and down in inventory. Maybe even add above the up and down arrow a page up and page down button. Also, when you pick up items, I'd put them at the beginning of that inventory list, not the end. Because when you pick something up, that's probably what you want to go look at. Finally, I would display your carry weight right there in the inventory screen. It's weird that you had to go over to your character page to see that. You should be able to see how close you're getting to your carry weight. For the dialogue screens, I would have displayed, when you're talking to somebody, I would have put money in there so you can see how much money you have, especially when because if you get offered to bribe somebody or pay somebody something, you kind of want to see how much am I dipping into my funds. While I'm on that, I'd say I definitely want more heads too, more of those talking heads. I mentioned in a video it took us 3 or 4 months per head. So we put as many in as we could. I wish we either could have sped up that process or added more people into that pipeline so we could have put more talking heads in. They were cool. The downside of that is, their audio, their scripts had to be figured out early because the voiceover was recorded for those heads. The phonemes were matched to that dialogue. That all had to be done early. So the more of those we had, it would have required locking down some dialogues early. On the world map, a couple things I do there. Whenever you had an encounter, it threw away where you were going. So if you were leaving the vault for the first time and you clicked on Vault 15 and you started going over there and you saw Shady Sands or you had a random encounter, it forgot where you were going. That should have just stayed in there until the player picked something else actively. Also, I would have made perks and skills let you avoid some random encounters. The outdoorsman skill should have done that, or there should have been a perk for that. You should have been able to decide, I just don't feel like having this encounter right now. Maybe it isn't guaranteed. Maybe it's skipping low level ones or high level ones, but I would put something in for that. The next thing was companion AI. If you watched my video on making Fallout, you understand that companions were added very, very, very late to the game. And there was really no chance to do an AI overhaul. I would have done that. First of all, I would have let you barter with your party members. You don't have to pickpocket them or whatever it is now to let you change their armor and weapons. I would also let you tell party members to move out of the way. We actually did that for NPCs in Fallout 2. It was one of the last things I put in before I left. I wish that had been in the base game, and I wish it had been in for your party members, because they kind of tend to stand in your way. I would have let party members change their armor. A lot of times we didn't put that in because we didn't want to change the model, or we wanted them to look a certain way. No, once they become your companion, let you customize them whatever you want. I would also let them gain levels so they keep up with you in terms of skills and hit points and all of that, and maybe get some perks of their own, either from the player's list or maybe they have their own list. I would also put in combat settings specifically for the party members, so you could say, I want you to be defensive, I want you to be aggressive, those kind of things, which are really common now. We just didn't think of them back then. I also would basically, whenever you started actively using a healing skill, or any skill that you were targeting them with, like even if you were stealing because you wanted to, trade items with them, turn off their move. They had an idle where they'd move around. Sometimes they'd step from one position to another. It was so frustrating trying to click on them while they were moving around. For combat and options related to it, I definitely would have put in more turn-based options. I've talked about this in another video where I said, hey, put all the enemies on the same turn and have them go at the same time. That would have really helped just to make turn-based a little snappier, especially when you go into turn-based in a big town and most people are just moving away from you. It's just, it really slowed down Fallout in a way it didn't need to be slowed down. I would have made skills more useful and even considered collapsing some. And what I mean there is you could take energy weapons, but we didn't even drop anything for at least the first third, if not the first half of the game. So I would have put in some energy weapons earlier in the game just so you could use that skill. Otherwise, why did you tag it? I would have also collapsed some. There's been a lot of discussion about maybe first aid and doctor. Just collapse that into one skill. But in general, I would have done a pass over skills and gone, are all these equally useful? Maybe some of them needed some more functionality. Maybe a couple of them needed to be collapsed. Or maybe the thing that they operated on, the thing that you did with it, needed to be spread out and used more frequently throughout the game at early levels and later levels. Similar to that, I would have done a balance pass on the traits. I understand everyone's always like, take gifted, it's what you should take. Yeah, I agree. Some of them were more powerful than others. We really knew a balance pass on that. I wouldn't change it too much, though, because there's something fun about what was there. But anyway. And then I would go through the combat options. For example, I would say that ranged attacks that miss won't have any chance to strike other creatures unless you're playing with combat set to rough. Similarly, I would say that spray attacks, like from Uzis, don't have any chance to strike friendly creatures nearby, friendly to the person shooting, unless combat is set to rough. And then conversely, I would say no critical failures happen if the game difficulty is set to easy. I know a lot of people have told stories about how they started the game and even though I turned off critical failures for the first day, once they left the rat cave, they were immediately set upon in a random encounter and they critically failed in that. I would say on easy, no critical failures for both sides. There was also a bug the game shipped with where stat rolls could only be success or failure. They could not be critical success or failure. I'd fix that, which would, by the way, fix scripts like playing chess with Zax, the supercomputer. Apparently, there was a script outcome there that could never happen because the scripter wrote it assuming you could get a critical success, and there was a bug in critical success rolls against stats. Finally, I would let the game play in way higher resolutions than 640, 480. Definitely for playing the game. Definitely for expanding the cinematics. Not sure if I could put up-resing in there. I'm not sure that would be appropriate, but definitely a simple scaler for the art. And also, once I did that, then I'd make the in-game windows either center themselves or push off to a corner very easily, and you'd have options to do that. I think that's most of the changes I'd make. I know people are probably thinking, oh, I can think of 10 other things you should do. And you're probably right. But some of the things I've seen people suggest, it changes Fallout. It changes kind of the nature of what Fallout is. And I wanted to have a very light hand on making these changes. I don't want Fallout to be a different game. I just think it could be a little easier, especially for modern gamers, to get into. Anyway, hope you like that.